my name is Debbie Reynolds. They call me the Data Diva. Today I want to talk about data privacy and voice recognition devices. Voice recognition devices are described as things like smart speakers and smart TVs, basically Internet of Things devices that record or capture the voice of individuals. California has recently passed a bill in their assembly that's going to the Senate now. It's called AB 1262. This particular bill would amend an existing privacy law within the state of California as it relates to basically smart devices that record or recognize voices. So this is pretty interesting. Basically, what they want to do is make sure that users are informed about how voices are being captured and what companies will do with the data at the setup stage of these devices, which is not currently mandated now in the state of California. They want people to be able to do things like opt in to voice recording and also voice transcription. Currently, a lot of those things happen without the knowledge of individuals. And then they also want to limit the data retention and prohibit certain types of advertising based on voice data. A lot of people say things like they may have been speaking about a particular product and then they see it show up in a certain search result or email or something after that. So I think this bill is trying to bring more transparency to consumers as they use these tools and make sure that they know and understand how their voice is being captured and what is being done with their data beyond kind of their typical use of a particular device. So I think this particular bill, especially if it gets passed in the Senate, is going to be pretty significant, I think, because they're really digging down into not only the capture of the voice, but what is happening with voices that are being either recorded in some way or transcribed. So there's been a really big push on voice with technology to be able to really capture and get insights from that. And there are some legitimate reasons for that to happen, but I think that those things need to be more transparent to users. Also, I think this particular bill is really interesting, or the privacy laws that we're seeing being passed at the state level are interesting because they're pulling in features like consent, where a lot of other laws within the nation about data capture or how companies use data is typically a notice regime where companies are not necessarily being asked to obtain consent in the U.S. They typically only really have to notify the person about what they're doing. And then typically there may or may not be sort of an opt-out option that someone can take. So I think this bill is interesting, and the other state laws are interesting. You know, Colorado, Virginia, California. I'll even throw in Illinois for the BIPA law, where they're really putting a fine point on the idea of getting consent of an individual in some instances, and not merely relying on a notice regime where a company just says we're going to do X, Y, and Z with your data. So I think this is kind of the way of the world that's going to go in the U.S., where there are going to be more and more laws that are calling for consent as opposed to notice in the future. That's it. Thank you.